Good afternoon. It is a privilege and a pleasure for me to stand here before you honoring a former player of mine and a very, very dear friend. I'm going to take you back a couple of years. I'm going to take you back to 1968 when Rick Keeley was 15 years old and a sophomore at St. Pius X High School vying for a position on the football team. That was 1968. We have been close friends ever since. Now during those times, we practiced for 3 straight weeks before we had a game. Twice a day, hot, humid, dusty, etc. So you got to know a lot about your players during those couple of weeks. So one day, just about at the end of practice, at the end of the camp, I said to my line coach, "Who the hell's that Keeley kid?" And he said, "Oh, coach, he's good. He's a hard worker, etc. He's going to be good." I said, "Well, he drives me crazy because every time I look around, every time I watch practice, he's smiling, having a good time." Well, that's the first lesson in life that I learned from Rick Keeley. He's optimistic, he's positive, he has a great attitude, never say die attitude. I learned that, remember, I'm the coach. I learned that from one of my players about attitude, and he has carried that attitude throughout his entire life, that positive attitude. But you know as well as I do, he's not getting into this prestigious organization because he's a happy guy and positive. He's getting in because of his success on the football field and because of his success with kids. 275 wins in his career because of that positive attitude and his knowledge of the game. 47 years he's been a head coach. Now that's hard to believe. You talk about longevity, he's got it to the nth degree. At Berks Catholic alone, he has 113 wins, 25 losses, many district champions, many league champions. He's a graduate of St. Pius X High School in 1971, having played for us in 1970. He wasn't the biggest guy in the world, but you couldn't block him. He would not stay blocked. He had that intensity. And I've seen many college players, many high school players. I never was around a nose guard that could play sideline to sideline like Rick Keeley. His motivation was unbelievable. He was recruited after Pius to go to Kutztown University. And they were a little concerned about his size, because he wasn't the biggest guy in the world. But he was Rick Keeley. He was a nose guard. And during his 3 years there, 2 years he was all PSAC. 2 years, junior and senior year. He made the all-decade team of the 1970s. And from the nose guard position. On graduation, he carried this attitude, this background, etc., thank God, into the teaching and coaching profession. Because I wonder how many kids, I know it's a lot, have been influenced, just not on the football field, but in life, by just being around and watching Rick Keeley from day to day. Rick had many great traits and characteristics. Some qualities that I think, and I want to mention, that he had in abundance besides being friendly. Number one, he is and was a natural leader who thrived on influencing and persuading young people to go in the right directions. He had the know-it-all to surround himself with good assistants throughout his entire career. He loved the game. and he coached it with a passion for, as I said, 47 years as a head coach. And his positiveness, as I was still coaching at Pius and then later at Kutztown University, I always wanted to call Rick after he had a loss, because I wanted to see how he reacted to a loss. So you gotta be upset, you gotta be mad. Call him on the phone, was upset sometime for losses, and let me know it. But at the end, he never finished any conversation without telling me something good about his kids. And even though in defeat, they played exceptionally hard. He loved the game. And you wouldn't be in it for 47 years if you didn't have a passion for it. He was always willing to learn and listen. After all these years, a young guy will come in, want to sit down, tell Rick what he knows. Rick will listen, because that's him. He loved being around kids. If you are a parent here today, your son playing for Rick Keeley was something good, really good, that happened in that young man's life. But remember this, I want you to remember this. Football, as important as it is to Rick, is not number one in his life. It's not the most important thing. The most important thing in Rick's life is his family, Sharon, his wife, his kids, his grandkids, his father, etc. That's number one with Rick Keeley. And that's why he is the type of person he is. So my dear friend and fellow player, come forward and give your address. Congratulations.
As Coach said, I never was a really very big guy, as a matter of fact, and young ladies need to be sensitive to this. The very first girl I ever asked out on a date, she didn't just say no, she said, no, you're too short. So, I was crushed. I went home, my mom consoled me all night. But here at the Hall of Fame, okay, I'd like to thank the PSFCA for the honor of being inducted into this organization today. I would like to thank God for the many blessings that He has given me. He's allowed me to play this game for 12 years. And next year, if I can finish next year as a successful coach, that'll be 48 years. And to think that I've had the honor of walking onto a football field in the fall for 60 years, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. So I thank God for the opportunity to do all that. I'd like to congratulate my fellow members this year. I know they put all the wing tee gurus over here. Coach Mick, he ran the wing tee at Pius as well before his coaching career was over. And, you know, the gentleman on this side of the room over here, countless hours, you know, owning the sport, working with their players, and keeping family time a priority. When I was called and told I'd be inducted into the Hall of Fame, one of the first things I thought about is, okay, what is this Hall of Fame? And I looked it up, and it said the Hall of Fame is an organization where if you do something for a very long time and you're good at doing it for a very long time, you get into the Hall of Fame. Well, to me, a hall is something huge like this. We have 5 of us that are being honored here tonight. But let me tell you something. All of you sitting out there, and many people that cannot be here tonight, were such an influence on all of us, or we wouldn't be here tonight. So I want to thank everybody that was I get emotional sometimes. You can't coach this sport without being emotional. So I'd like to thank everyone that is here, that's present tonight, for helping me to become the person that I am. My mom and dad, I certainly have to thank them. My mom told me, if you want to know what's important to someone, where do they spend their time and where do they spend their money? And my mom and dad, they spent their time and their money on my brother and I, and signing us up for the different teams, taking us to practice, buying us the gear that we needed to do. And my mom did all that and passed away way too soon. Okay, she did get to be part of my coaching career. She passed away at 68. My dad in the audience here today, he's 91. He's still farming. When I retired at the end of last year, he said, "What are you retiring for?" I'm 91, I'm not retired yet. You can't retire yet. So I retired from the classroom. And he's questioning there, you know, you've still got some good teaching years left, and I do, but my wife Sharon, who I'll talk about in a little bit, she's a retired teacher as well, and I feel I have good teaching years left, but do I teach until something happens and we can't do some of the other things that we as a family want to do? So I retired from the classroom while I'm still coaching. How long the coaching will last, I take that year by year. But my dad's a very faithful fan. Okay, he comes to every game. He took me to every game to watch Pius play. They played on Sunday, so he didn't farm. Nothing was done on the farm on Sunday. Pius played on Sunday. He took me to the games to cheer for St. Pius X, and that's the high school I wanted to go and play at. And he made sure that I would get to the games. And he would come out after every game to the field, and he had to have listened to more post-game talks than anybody in here. Because he's been doing it a long time. And only one time did he ever come up. He had some words of wisdom for me. And we had just lost a big game. He says, "Rick," he says, and he knows nothing about football. He doesn't claim to know anything about football. He said, "Rick, I think your tackles are too far apart. You gotta get them closer together." He said that because, you know, he loved me and he wanted good things to happen to me. And, you know, thank you, Dad, for that. My mom and Dad put my brother and I through college. We had no debt when we graduated because of him and her. Now, my wife Sharon, in the audience here, June 18th, will be 46 years, our anniversary. I am very fortunate to spend those 46 years with her. But I can tell you right now, she does not like football. And she's not afraid to tell me she doesn't like it. But she loves me. And because she loves me, she allows me to do the things that I do. And that's teach and coach football. And you think she doesn't know anything. We were fortunate enough one year, we had won a district championship, and you know, we found out we're playing Southern Columbia in a state playoff game, and we're playing Southern Columbia at Governor Mifflin. The school is 5 miles down the road from us. And Southern Columbia, they have a good hour drive to get there. And we're discussing, you know, some football, I guess, at the dinner table, and she says, "You know, you should get that game changed." I said, "Get the game changed? I don't think I can do that." "Why do you want to get the game changed?" She said, "Your team doesn't usually play very good on that field." We play at Governor Mifflin, who sponsors a lot of playoff games. We had lost 2 district playoff games to one missing. We had lost to Imhotep there. And yeah, that Saturday we lost to Southern Columbia. We played pretty good. We didn't play bad. We lost to some pretty good football teams. But she allows me to keep doing what I'm doing. My head football coach, Coach Mick, when I learned that I was going to be inducted, I stopped at his house on the way home from school and asked him if he would be my presenter. And him and Mrs. Mick, whom I love very much as well, he said he'd love to do that. And it was a special day for him. It was his birthday, the day that I stopped in to see him, and he said that he would be more than honored to do that. And Coach Mick, as the inductee, as my presenter, he was my head football coach in high school. And before every practice, he would talk to us as a team. You heard him speak. He has a message all the time. He would talk to us after the game, after practice. He would have a message once again. You know, and I could say to Coach, you know, "Coach, I really don't remember a word of what you said." I can tell you this, every coaching fiber in me is there because those seeds were planted by him at a really early age. And another one of my high school coaches, my head baseball coach, Coach Basoda, is here as well. And he was our Coach Dienz on the team, on the football team, so he was a big influence on the baseball. And Coach Senji couldn't be here, he was the line coach. But when these men retired from coaching, they got on the sub list at Holy Name and Birch Catholic. And Teresa, who would line up the subs when they come to school, she'd let me know, Rick, coaches are coming in today, and she would set it up that their lunch period would coincide with my lunch period. So I'm 60 plus years old, I'm sitting in the faculty lunchroom having lunch with my teachers and my coaches, and I walk out in the hallway, I think I'm one of the kids again, because I just spent some time with guys who meant so much to me, and they still do. So, coaches, thank you very much. I was fortunate to play for Coach Baldwin at Kutztown, and Coach Leonzi at Kutztown, who, even though small in stature, they gave me an opportunity to play. One of the things that Coach Baldwin taught me, he had a tradition that he wanted us all on Friday nights, after we had our meal, we all had to go to the movies in Kutztown. And we walked down to the movie theater. We met in Old Main, we walked down to the movie theater, and he walked down with us and he walked back. And he would talk to us. He picked somebody different every time. I can remember talking with Coach Baldwin, and he said, Rick, for us to be a successful team, we have to have good citizens on the team. And that struck a nerve with me. And I'm always talking to my players about being a good citizen. Okay. Another coach who was a big influence on me was Lloyd Wolf. He was our basketball coach at Holy Name. And he, in the 1960s, when we started football, he was an assistant football coach. And he would tell stories how after practice, we'd have enough uniforms for everybody. So they had 2 practices, and he'd wash uniforms after the first practice, so the second group of kids could come in and practice. But what did I learn from Lloyd as a head basketball coach? I would drive him to a lot of his games, if not all of his games. And I'd be the scorekeeper at all the home games, run the clock. And Lloyd would always spend time before every game with an opposing coach. He would sit there and talk to him. And I thought, that's pretty neat. So I try to make it a point when, we're playing an opposing school to spend some time with the opposing coach. I know the first time we played Bishop McDevitt in a playoff game. I walk across the field and I talk to coach. And one of the guys over there talking to him, he had a business of, making kids bigger, faster, stronger. He's sitting on his sidelines. He's worked with my kids too. Oh man, did he tell the coach all my secrets? It was a pleasure talking with him that night, and we played each other 3 times, and it's always good conversation. Because really, the head coach on the other sidelines, he's the only one else. He's the only other player in the stadium that's going through the same things that I'm going through as a head coach. And I like to establish a rapport with the coaches that I coach against. One of my former assistant coaches, Jack Causa, who's here today, Jack and I played against each other in high school. And when I was hired at Holy Name to be an assistant coach, Jack was already an assistant coach on the staff. We were assistant coaches for 8 years. And Coach Rudy, our head coach, decided to resign. Jack and I thought, one of us are going to be the next head coach. And Jack and I talked, and we both pretty much agreed that whoever got the head coaching job didn't matter. I was going to coach the line and the defense, and he was going to coach the backs and be the offensive coordinator. And the only reason I got the job over Jack was I was a teacher in the classroom. And our administration thought it would be good to have a teacher in the building. But Jack held true to his word. I asked him this evening, I think Jack and I worked together for 40 years, okay? And he didn't stop coaching until his son Patrick earned a baseball scholarship to play at Mount St. Mary's, and he wanted to go and watch his son play. And he said, I had to give up coaching. Now, his son has graduated, his son is one of my assistant coaches on the staff now as well. So Jack, thank you very much. Other lessons I learned as a head coach coming through, I was very fortunate. My first year coaching, we had a pretty good team. We were 7-4. My second year coaching, that good class of sophomores, when a former head coach retired, they were juniors my first year. We were 7-4. So now they're seniors, and we were 11-2. And I thought, man, I got this coaching stuff down. I thought I was a pretty good football coach. But the next year, we ran an option offense, and we didn't have an option quarterback, and we were 1-10. And that brings a lot of humility your way in a hurry when you're sitting at 1-10. And one of my assistant coaches who had resigned, said to me, he used to be an assistant football coach, basketball coach, and track coach, so he knew the athletic world. And he said, Rick, I watched you coach an 11-win team, and I watched you coach a 1-win team. He says, I don't know if you're winning or losing when you're coaching. You coach the same way. And I think that's an important lesson for young coaches out there and for our coaches up here. Okay, you're out there to coach a game, teach young men how to play a game. And, I really took that to heart. And one of the men on that team that couldn't be here today, Bill Hess was starting center on that 11-2 team. He was also the starting center on that 1-10 team. And, when we have conversations, believe it or not, more conversations are about the 1-10 team than about the 11-1 team. And he, has pointed out to me many times, and thanked me many times, says, Coach, we didn't win a lot of games, but every time we went out on the field, we thought we could win. And that's our jobs as coaches, to make the kids believe that when they go out on that field, that they have a chance to win. Be careful how you treat the players that play for you, because Bill Hess today, he's my boss. He's the principal of the school. And one thing with teaching and coaching as many years is what I have. Everybody that's my boss, I taught or I coached. The principal I taught and coached. The vice principal I taught. The athletic director I taught, and I coached the athletic director. My director of studies I had coached in track. She was a female at the time. But that's one of the big rewards as a coach. You don't know right away if the result is good or bad. To see these kids come back and what they grow up to be, and they grow up to be good citizens. And Billy, to me, is a perfect example of that. I also have a little funny story as a coach. I think we have a responsibility for our opponent on the other sidelines, and we've been blessed with our fair share of talent over the years. My assistant coaches as a fault tell me I pull my players too soon. I don't let them in the game. And we're involved in a game, and my defensive coordinator, we're well under control of the game. And I see that we're blitzing. I said, hey, no more blitzing. Okay? The game is under control. Let's allow the other team to have a little success. Okay? No more blitzing. Okay? Next play, man, he said somebody again. I said, what are we doing? I said, we were up by 50. I said, did you ever lose by 50? He said, yeah, to that guy right there. I said, okay, well, we're not going to use this team to get even with that guy right there. His players don't deserve that. He doesn't deserve that. We have a responsibility. Yes, I can only coach one team. I can't coach both teams on the field. But I have a responsibility to the coaches and the players on the other sideline to make sure that they feel some self-worth when the game's over and not feel bad as you sometimes can feel when you lose a game and it's not even close. Also with me here today, sitting in the corner back there, Dave Saylor played for me. He's my associate head coach. He's my offensive coordinator, and he sets up our practice schedule. It puts a lot of time in to making sure we're supposed to be when we're supposed to be there. And Dave played for me, and it's a funny story about Dave. Dave's a big guy, and he's a smart guy. And as a freshman, he's really the only one who can learn the quarterback spot. But when he moved up to the varsity level, he was playing tackle. Well, we're playing Governor Mifflin, a big school, and our quarterback is hurt, our seventh shirt. So we have number 72 rolling out on Waggle, going past, because he knew how to do it, and he was willing to do it. And Dave is a big part of our program there. Jason Esposito in the back of the room here. Jason's my offensive line coach. Jason played for me. He went on to play at Kutztown as well, and he was 6'4", 6'5", 300-pound guy who graduated from college and had an opportunity to get in some of the camps in the pro level. And Jason's claim to fame is he snapped the ball to Tom Brady in the camp with the New England Patriots. So our offensive line is well coached. Phil Benetton is sitting right next to him. They were teammates at Holy Name. Phil's my defensive line coach. Ray Seraphin sitting next to him. We were coaches at two different schools. I was a head coach at Holy Name. Ray was a head coach at Central Catholic. The bishop closed both schools and made them one, made them First Catholic. And I was fortunate that I was hired as the head coach in Berks Catholic. My very first phone call was to Ray, to bring him over, be on my staff at Berks Catholic. And we made that juncture, bringing those two schools together. It worked. And a big reason for that was the positive influence that Ray was when he came on the staff at Berks Catholic. Logan Shuck back there, he's my special teams coach. He does a great job. He played for me as well. He's working on getting a teaching degree now. Keith Leamer back there, his son played for me, and we hired him to be our defensive coordinator for a number of years, but he's moved on to Reading now. Okay, and George Vogel sitting in the back. He coached my freshman for a long time. And I hired George first as a baseball coach, but when George applied for the baseball team, his hair was down around his shoulders. And when I interviewed George, I asked him, George, if I hire as a head coach, I think you can cut your hair. And he said, yeah, he didn't give me a hassle with it. Back in the day, you could do things like that. But they're all here today to support me. Along with my kids, I've been blessed with 4 wonderful children. Amy, Michael, Megan, and Mark. Proud of you. My daughter Amy lives in Texas now, so she couldn't be here today. She was going to come in, but her daughter had some surgery, and Amy's a nurse. And, they're saying you didn't think that mommy should be away. Her daughter's not quite at 100%, so she couldn't be here today. Amy Lynn with her husband Brad, granddaughter Madeline Rose, Emily and Ryan, they're in Texas, but when they're in Pennsylvania, they come to all the games. My son Michael is here today with his wife Jean Marie. Michael played for me for 4 years, and like me, Michael was not big and strong, but he was tough and smart. And as a player for me, he earned his starting outside linebacker spot. And, worked hard at it. I got thought I had to make some more money. I took a job at a public school after Mike's sophomore year. And I played back, we played home and England. So what does Mike do? Now he's on the opposing team. He has 3 interceptions against us. The school I was at thought I was giving my son signals. He didn't do that. He's just a great player. He's a good father to, wife Jean Marie, his oldest son Russell, and then number 2 Michael, and then Philip, and they kept trying, and finally we have Anna Marie. She's a treasure. They're all treasures. Okay, my daughter Megan is here with her husband. Okay, Steve-O. They have 3 kids: Tyler, Patrick, and little Miss Molly. They all come to the games. They support us at the games. And my youngest son Mark, with his wife Kate. Mark kind of following in Dad's footsteps a little bit. He's a teacher and a coach up in Emmaus. He's the head 7th and 8th grade, football coach there, and teaches math there. And someday I may be working for him. When I step down as a head coach, maybe they'll hire me. Who knows? Drop a hint there for you, Martin. Okay, so I've been very supportive. A lot of support from my family, and I've been very blessed. And they all come out, when the game's over, and have some kind words for Papa, whether we win or whether we lose. The grandkids, they go and they knock all the yard markers down, and they have a great time. Okay, nobody gets to be a great coach without great players. Okay, we've had our share of good players over the course of the year. I tell them to be good citizens. I have a rule with my players. I only have one rule as head coach. You do what's right. If it's almost right, it's wrong. Don't do it. And if you do, we're going to have a conversation. That's worked for me. I don't have a lot of rules. And I explain to them that they have this little conscience up there when they want to do something. And they know it's not right, but everybody else is doing it. They probably won't get caught. If you're having that conversation, guess what? It's almost right. And if it's almost right, it's wrong. Don't do it. I live by that code. A lot of my players live by that code. One of my former players, a few weeks ago, we had career day at Berks Catholic, and he yells out, "Hey, Coach, I used one of your quotes with my team, with my kids." He said, "Nothing great was ever accomplished without enthusiasm." And that's one of the things I say to my kids a lot. Nothing great was ever accomplished. You got to be enthusiastic. You got to make something great happen. You got to believe in it. You got to be enthusiastic about it. So I drilled that home to my players to do what's right. Through my career, the player that stands out the most is a young man, Anthony Myers, who as a sophomore was diagnosed with cancer. And he's playing Friday night, scoring touchdowns in a football game. And Sunday something happens. And he goes through all the tests and he travels all over the country. And when he was in Berks County, he'd come to practice and he'd be running and throwing the ball and catching the ball and thinking, why can't this kid play? Because the cancer hasn't affected his nervous system yet. And his father asked the doctors at one of their visits, can he play football? And the doctor said, let the kid play. Okay, so it was early in the season when he was diagnosed with this. So now we're in the playoffs. We're in the district playoff game against Hershey at our place. And Anthony could play in that game. But the father asked the doctor to regress a little bit here. After he signed the play, he said, let the kid play. But going back even further, when Anthony was at home and they were going to get the phone call that day from the doctor telling him what was wrong, okay, and the diagnosis was cancer. We have a huge influence on these young men, guys. You know, the first thing he said to his parents, take me to practice. Whew, that was big. He wanted to be with his friends and team and share that experience. And, Anthony played in that Hershey game. He scored a touchdown, speed sweep. He was returning a punt. He returned that punt for a touchdown. It was like unbelievable. His teammates, just to see them work, he was not touched on that play, and he scored that touchdown. That's the kind of greatness he brought out in his teammates, and that's the kind of greatness we as coaches have to try to bring out in our players. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say my niece Erin was here with her family today, and Ella is a freshman here at Bishop McDevitt, and being here at Bishop McDevitt today, 2 years ago we played Bishop McDevitt here in a football game, so don't have real good memories of being here at Bishop McDevitt, but because of this today, I have good memories of Bishop McDevitt. So I've talked long enough. I want to thank everyone who came here today to share in this special day with all of us. And remember, okay, everyone up here is up here because of something part that you played.